Hi guys, what's going on? And welcome back to another episode of Total War Arena. So, what we did today, a little bit different. I have been sort of trying out quite a lot more the heavy artillery. Not really a unit class I'm naturally drawn to, I have to say. And I think one that perhaps many of you might not really be interested in yourselves, but it's still kind of interesting to see, and I've sort of been playing it for sort of 10 or 15 battles now, getting a bit of the hang of it a little bit, and some of its nuances and sort of how it works a little bit. So I'm only up to tier 4, I've got this guy fully upgraded. I actually originally set out doing this because I wanted to go to the light artillery. But I have to say I've actually sort of been enjoying the heavy artillery. It's kind of quite good for casual gameplay and stuff. Upgrade wise there's not a lot of changes, the only changes really are to how quickly you aim. There's nothing that changes reload rate. Things like the gives a slight bit of range and supposed weapon damage, but you know, you hit a man, you absolutely flatten him anyway, so it still does the same amount of damage to models anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant. Other than that, I am running with 1 unit of Roman infantry carrying some stakes for defence, obviously pretty important, and the actual units themselves I'm just running with the surveyors because it increases basically their accuracy, or the rate at which the artillery refocuses before it fires, which is, you know, a pretty useful thing. Some people like to run with things like the burning coals or the acrid smoke, just morale damage, you know, it's like a continual area effect, kind of like scorched earth, and oil pots, that sort of thing. All pretty cool, like, you know, I can't deny that they have some uses, but by and large I find it's just as easy to keep going with the boulders, and they'll have the bit of extra accuracy that's comes with that consumable. So, other than that, that's really all there is to say about them. They're not particularly exciting. I'm obviously running them with Caesar, who I've got fully upgraded at tier 4. Continue to get him upgraded as we get into the higher tiers. Other than that, yeah, let's hop into battle and see how we get on. So, we are just loading into our replay for this one. Not necessarily going to be the most fast-paced battle, this one, but that kind of sums up the playstyle for heavy artillery. But kind of an interesting one. Some of the things you should do, some of the things that you shouldn't do that you'll see me do, and kind of a bit of a useful guide maybe for those who've never played heavy artillery before, and kind of gives the sort of other point of view for those who've never played it, kind of like me, about why you're being shot at and why how sort of terrain affects things, etc, etc. Anyway, so let's get this thing started. I spawned here at the back. There seemed to be 2 choices really for me. I could spawn down here and set up along this ridge line here, which gives me that extra bit of range on this hill, but you're a little bit more vulnerable, or go here and go for the watchtower. In the end I decided to go here because by and large I wanted the watchtower because it gives good visibility all around me. Nothing can really sneak up on me through the trees or anything like that, and it's still a pretty good position for range. You know, once, well, you'll see once I've got these guys set up, they're setting up the artillery. Oh, and they've opened fire already. You can see the range, it gives me good access all across this hill. So our opening shots, I fired at some guys down here, some of the enemy, I think there's an enemy light artillery crew, but missed completely. But yeah, it gives you an idea of the range these guys get. It's a pretty solid amount of range, look. You know, I cover completely the hill. Don't quite make it to this forest over here, and even if I was on this edge further down, I think I'd struggle to get shots much over here and deep into the forest. But most of this ridgeline is not safe. And initially, I am just switching between targets for what I think I can reasonably hit quite effectively. In the end, I decided to switch. You know, I fired a couple of shots down at these guys, which is nice. Gives you an idea of how much damage you can expect for sort of a 2-rock volley in around about 5,000. But then these guys, look at this guy, has clustered all these units together as one, which makes just a prime target. Oh, lovely. Because basically nothing stops a boulder. It's kind of like a Greek cavalry charge. If it hits, it will just clear out a row. So if you put all 3 units together on one, then it will clear out that whole row still, but that would be 3 units worth of rows. So, you know, it meant all his units took a reasonable amount of damage. You know, getting a nice bit of aggression points early on. It's also worth noting that boulders roll, I found, and you get quite a bit of damage when they roll into enemies. So yeah, so that's certainly worth... clipped a few people at the back there. Worth noting that, yeah, don't cluster your people, not when there's artillery on the map. And if you have artillery on your team, like the enemy did, then almost certainly the other team will have artillery as well, which we did. And it's useful for just sort of, if you're playing artillery, the other thing you learn is sort of the approximate range your units are going to have. Oh dear, they fell for those dogs, didn't they? Fell for the infiltration there. You know, on this map, I now know sort of roughly what I can expect when I'm going to be artillery safe or not now with my infantry. I know I should be safe in this forest, but if I'm on the hill, I'm going to be well in range. Anyway, so I'm just sort of flicking and switching between targets, making my options, trying to target units that are kind of out of fights. But generally, I'm trying to flick my fire all over the map. I don't think, particularly given that heavy artillery received quite a lot of nerfs quite a few patches ago now, which sort of reduced that overall damage output, which was absolutely the right thing to do. I think that was a good thing, and a lot much more in line now. I think pretty balanced in all honesty at the moment. But that being said, you're not going to be doing huge amounts of damage output. You're not an archer or javelins. You're that continual steady damage output, with 600 damage, 600 aggression points, slowly racking up the damage. And I think part of that is switching your fire around the map. As a player, most players, me included, if I start to get shot at by artillery, I'm naturally inclined to try and find cover, be it behind a cliff like this, something like that. And it makes me nervous, it holds me up, it delays me, and it makes me less likely to take opportunities because I'm trying to avoid the artillery fire. So by sort of shooting all over the map, you're sort of spreading the fear, I think, of artillery, and I think that's a worthwhile thing to be doing. Not to mention, you should be looking for the best possible target selection all the time. So don't become too focused on one unit, Look for different opportunities. If groups are going to be clustering up like this, seems like a better opportunity than sort of a handful of scragged war dogs, then I'd start to take those shots. You can see the sort of damage you're getting from a double hit. I would have been better for probably targeting this unit because it's a bit more clustered. So what else is that you need to be doing with artillery? The assumption, if you're using artillery, I'm going to assume you're going to be using Caesar. To be honest, that's the logical choice. It's really the only choice. Assuming you're using Roman artillery, not like the Greek premium unit or something. And Caesar's ability, Biddy, basically increases the accuracy of the artillery, at least at tier 4. I think it gets better and does more things, obviously, as we advance up. That 30% maximum radius of the artillery, so that's how big the bloom can get. On the reticle of the artillery, minus 30% is significant, makes it quite a lot more accurate. This ability lasts, 40 seconds, with about 140 second cooldown, so you only need to pop it on one of your units at once, and you can almost continuously cycle it. You see, look, as we're just about to run out here, this other one's coming up, and I activate it. So you can't quite, there's about a 20-second window at this tier, but you want to be continually cycling this ability because that's going to make your damage increase quite a lot because you're going to be landing hits almost every time, and you should be able to reduce friendly fire a little bit with it. So yeah, remember to keep cycling that. We'll have a bit more look in detail at friendly fire later on, where we have a few issues, a few bits of friendly fire creep in. But yeah, you want to try and to be avoiding in situations like this. There's no reason not to. There's units here I could be targeting, although they may be protected sufficiently by this rock here. There's a unit out here, which I do target. Ooh, look at that, nice bit of damage. There's no need to be shooting. Say this unit of Prince Base here. If you're going to target, you target this back one, where you at least stand a chance of rolling the rocks into the enemy, rather than into your allies. Because artillery, one missed shot, you're going to do 5,000 or 6,000 damage to your allies. It's quite a lot of friendly fire, so you really want to be trying to avoid to do that. As you say, I'm continually chasing myself because you see I regularly switch sides. As the cavalry come in, though, I stop shooting. Oh, I don't. Oh, that was a bit of a misplay there on my part. You saw my targeting arrow stopped when I saw the cavalry coming in, so I'd obviously cancelled the order, but the rocks already ran with a long travel time. We missed that. Now, one other thing I've just noticed, I've had, when I was playing this battle, I got completely caught out by infiltration. Completely forgot all about it. I knew we had these, a couple of units of war dogs, which really weren't a worry for me with my unit. I started to kill them fairly easily. But I thought these were friendly cavalry, I fell for the trick. Between this video and the video the other day, I'm not really doing very well with infiltration. So yeah, that was a real error. As a general rule, I found it quite easy to defend my artillery in these matches. Maybe it gets harder at higher tiers, but so far I don't find enemy cavalry to be too much of a threat. I remember I've got access to 2 stakes with these guys. It's not normally really a problem for me. See the cavalry starting to look round again. Obviously we're defended by the stakes on this side. I use my javelins to start to get a bit of damage just on the enemy cavalry as it comes past. And now I keep a much better job of defending it. But yeah, you've got to try and keep an eye out, not only for enemies, but also friendlies that are mistaken for enemies. And to that end, I tend to, one sort of technique I've sort of picked up is I tend to look in reverse. So rather than sitting above your unit and thinking, oh, I'll target, this piece of artillery over here, or I'll target this, and then coming over and going, yes, I'll click on that. I tend to sit this way around, so I'm always seeing my artillery and sit behind my targets. So if you say, think, oh, I'd like to throw some rocks at this guy here, you can be looking at this, you get a full visibility on your unit the whole time. So rather than sitting like that, where it gives a nice view of the enemy, but of course, you know, it's dangerous, where that you can easily be sneaked up on, because all you got then is to try and look at your mini-map. And, you know, the one thing about the mini-map is it's mini, and it's pretty hard to see. So, yeah, I found that to be kind of a useful technique to save myself quite a few times sitting like this, because you can see enemy cavalry coming, and you get quite a wide view of the map. You know, you can sometimes see them coming hundreds of meters away, and you get a bit of an idea that they're coming. And really, once you've got your stakes set up like this, like I have now, it's very hard for them to get in if you're paying attention. These are, you know, a unit of starter are well worth having. Which is kind of another point. Oh dear, look at that friendly fire. That was a shocking shot, that was. I'm not quite sure what I was thinking there. I guess I was trying to hit more on this side, into this cluster here, around at the back. But that wasn't a very good shot. I should not have done that. Yeah, always bring a unit of infantry with you. Don't, unless you're in a party. You know, of course, if you're in a party and you know someone's with you and they're guaranteed that they'll look after you, absolutely fine, of course. But don't just expect your team to defend you. You know, every now and then we see people turn up with 3 units of artillery and say, you know, defend me, look after me, help me, and then are annoyed when the team doesn't, or something like that. Well, don't be that person. Bring a unit of infantry with you. You know, you're not going to be losing that much damage by having 1 unit of infantry, and it makes a massive difference to your defence. Really, it really does. So always bring infantry. The other things I've noticed, so it's kind of focus manual aim. Is manual aim worth doing? In my opinion, generally not, or at least so far in my experience, I'd say generally not. So I'm taking a risk now, firing at the enemy. Oh, but it paid off. Look at that, 6,700 damage to the enemy, no friendly damage. Yeah, so some people seem to really like using the manual aim to sort of take careful aim, but by and large, I find it's really hard to use. You see, I use it this time. See, I've selected manual aim now because I'm trying to take careful aim into this cluster of enemies. But by and large, manual aim. See, it actually worked quite well there. But by and large, manual aim is not worth using. You can only use it on 1 unit at a time, so having 2 artillery, that means you've only got 1 firing, while the other one, you know, if you get it set up well, you can have 1 firing, 1 reloading. By and large, that's pretty hard to do and doesn't really tend to happen, so you're slowing your fire rate. Not to mention the fact that the computer does a fairly good job of pre-predicting enemies' paths. If they're just running in a straight line and you're targeting them like this, you know, it's pretty accurate. You don't need to be manual aiming. Definitely, I just right-click targets. The only exceptions being fights like this, where friendly fire is an issue, because I'll let it really aim to its maximum amount to get the most accurate shot I can, and for throwing rocks at towers where you can't see them. So it's not in range, but for example, there is an enemy here. We know that because the tower is captured, so we know an enemy's there. You know, if I was in range, I could manual aim and throw a shot in someone in this circle, because it would be more than likely hitting someone, even though I can't see them. Sometimes useful in the start of the games on some of the maps. So other than that, I just right-click aim though. Manual aim, in my opinion, not worth it. Ooh, another stone goes in. So this battle isn't looking quite so good for us, is it really? It's a little bit against us, and a bulk of our remaining team is still artillery. So myself with artillery, a little bit of cavalry, and just some scrapings of infantry. Artillery is really good throughout the game, but as it gets late on like this, it begins to struggle more and more, really. Was that worth it? Well, we got quite a lot of horses for a little bit of damage to some enemy infantry. Yeah, because there's no longer large formations for it to target. Kind of makes it a lot harder for artillery to be effective, I find. Will it make it? Ah, just missed. See, because you have a hard job, you know, where a unit of archers would very easily kill those couple of spearmen. The artillery greatly struggles, I find. You know, the inaccuracy, I think, can't even hit larger formations like this. You know, this is not helped by the fact I'm just down to 1 artillery now, when I lost the other one to my own incompetence. But, yeah, generally, not so good in the late game. And they account for quite a bit of your team's points. And, of course, you know, not really contributing a lot. And then you've also got the question of what do you do with your infantry. You know, Do you just sort of give up, leave your artillery undefended? Maybe it's not necessarily producing that much for the team now anyway, so is it really worth defending that much? Should I just leave it? Or do I leave the infantry unit here to defend my artillery? In which case I've got a full health tier 4 infantry unit. It's going to be quite effective, just sat at the back doing nothing. So I don't know. In this case I'm just moving around to intercept these Carthaginian infantry. Obviously I was sat, as I always try to be, round like this, and I saw them coming at the hills. Obviously I know they're coming. Someone on the team was helpfully pinging them, but I had already been alert. I ended up missing the bulk of my peeler throws, and unfortunately I was hoping just to kill that unit with the peelers, but it didn't quite pan out for me. But I think we actually end up clipping him as he runs down the hill, that one man with an entire boulder, and he gets absolutely slaughtered. Because he only has 11 hit points. Because obviously artillery has a minimum fire range. One other thing I found which was kind of handy, although let's just see if we get this man. This is quite an epic shot if I remember. We go for the target. Doosh! 412 is actually going to kill him? Yes, good. I've forgotten what I was going to say. Words. Ooh, nice. Yes, so artillery health. It's one thing to, it's kind of an interesting point I found. Don't worry too much if the bulk of your crew dies. You really only need a couple of people to man these things. You know, like this, the crew's damage, it makes no difference. It doesn't slow down the rate of fire. It doesn't make it a better or worse artillery piece. So, you know, don't worry about that. And don't also worry about the machine itself being damaged by enemy cavalry, enemy artillery, enemy infantry charges, something like that, because you can always repair it. It's not really a problem. So, yeah, and you don't need a full crew. So if some of them get killed, if a couple of them stick out the back of the stakes or something, and then, you know, you're worried that they're going to get caught in a cavalry charge, it really doesn't matter. I wouldn't worry about it. I've also found it's kind of surprising how many enemy cavalry so far have killed themselves on my stakes. Seems to be quite a common occurrence. So yeah, watch out for stakes. If you're cavalry and you're fighting enemy artillery, they'll almost certainly have stakes deployed. Well, they should do anyway. At least when you start getting to tier 4, 5, 5 and sort of beyond, they will do. Don't just charge them. You'll lose almost all your cavalry. Be a bit more tactful. Look for a way through. Oh, not quite. Unfortunately, this battle, obviously, as you're about to see, does not quite go in my favour. And obviously, it's quite a long and slow one. I know we've been here quite a while now on this video. But it kind of gives an idea of many of the different facets, the different sort of changing targets, which are kind of what I was trying to show. Don't get too locked into trying to pick on one person. Just switch around. Always pick those nice, clear, large groups of enemies that are not too near friendlies when you can. And you should get a reasonable amount of damage per game. And finding that I'm proportionally able to get pretty decent amount of damage. Obviously, if your flank gets completely threatened by enemy infantry, you know, if you see that, and the game's going to end now, and hopefully, but you know, if you see in the distance, you know, only one commander goes that way and he comes across 4 enemy commanders and they're all coming down your flank, don't just sit there and wait for them to arrive. I know you've deployed your stakes and you feel that that's going to be a loss to move, but it's better to move and stay alive. Retreat, you know, sometimes you're afraid. It doesn't take that long to pack these things up. I don't know exactly what it is. It must be around 10 seconds, something like that. I'm not going to easily tell me, is it? Move. Just if you see a massive threat coming, you know, move before it gets here. Obviously, if there are 4 units of cavalry loitering around, don't walk outside your stakes then. But, you know, try and preempt enemy threats to move out the way, because, you know, you can really keep these things in the game pretty easily to the right to the end, I find. You know, unless your team gets completely decimated, then obviously they'll come and hunt you down and you'll be overwhelmed. But you should be able to keep these things in the game pretty much to the end. And that's how I find you get a pretty decent score with them. The longer you keep them in, you know, they just naturally keep racking up those hits on enemy formations, keep accruing damage more. So yeah, that's really all there is to say to them. Always take an infantry unit. Remember to cycle seasons buffs. Take some stakes, and yeah, give them a whirl. They're not by any means my favourite unit class to play. I'm not going to be playing them up to tier 10 or anything, but I think they're kind of worth playing just to sort of learn a little bit about their ranges and sort of what terrain stops them and what doesn't. So as an infantry commander, it sort of gives you a bit of an idea of how to avoid artillery fire a bit more, how long it takes for them to deploy and undeploy, how long each shot takes, that sort of thing. So it's well worth playing if you just kind of want to get an idea just of how to defeat them as an infantry commander. So anyway, I've definitely talked for long enough. This video has gone on far too long, more than I expected. So thank you for watching, guys, and I shall see you all on the next episode.